The offense gets the headlines, but it's the silver bullets to make Ohio State dangerous.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Tuesday edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, veteran sports talk host, delivering passionate coverage about your Buckeyes. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. During today's show, we will discuss how to strengthen Ohio State's special teams units, as well as a couple of things make Ohio State's defense unique and deadly. But first, in any given year, you're going to realize that the offense is going to get the bulk of the headlines. From Julian Sand's hot start to Bo Jackson needed to be RB1. Even if you go back to the past 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 years, it's offense heavy. They're always going to get the headlines. But this year specifically, while the offense is dominating the headlines, the Buckeyes are leaning on the defense in the first 4 games of the year to have an unblemished record. From Texas to Grambling to Ohio to even Washington, the Silver Bullets have been flying around, and they make Ohio State dangerous. Now, at the same time, we can't go any further without realizing that the Buckeyes have guys on offense that can be dangerous as well. Jeremiah Smith and Colonel Tate at the top of that list. But Ryan Day has used something very unique this year that I didn't think he was going to be able to do this early in the year. Based off you lost 8 guys on the defensive side of the ball to the National Football League, and you have new faces in new places, and you're getting some big-time play from some new starters early in the year. Most recently in this last game, Kayden McDonald and Caden Curry, Arvell Reese, throw him in there as well. He's getting some big-time play from guys that are starting for the very first time. But this entire unit, not just the 11 that start, but even the 8 guys that were in rotation on the D-line, even Peyton Pierce, even Devin Sanchez, all of these guys are a big reason why this defense has done something that hasn't been done at Ohio State since 1973. Through the first 4 games of the year, Ohio State has given up 9 or less points in every single game. Texas, 7. Grambling, a goose egg. Ohio, 9. This past week in Washington, 6. Not 4 games. The opponents have scored 9 points or less. And that's something Ohio State hasn't done since 1973. And their head coach right now, Ryan Day, is an offensive-minded guy. He has been able to produce some of the Ohio State's best quarterbacks in the storied history of this program. And so you would expect, especially a guy like Julian Sand, with the talent and his ability to quickly grasp what's happening on the field and have that translate to conversations on the sideline, be able to learn from his mistakes quickly. You would expect for Ryan Day to say, okay, cool, put the ball in that young man's hand, doesn't matter if in the shoe or on the road, and let him spin that rock all around the yard. But no, Ryan Day is saying, let's just be a little bit slower, more methodical in our approach. Let's still go out there and play the seasoned vet as the starting running back. Let's go out there and try to figure out who RB2 is or who the best back off the bench is. Let's figure out how to get 4 or 5 tight ends involved in the scheme every single week. Let's figure this thing out as we go. And while Ryan Day is doing that, I don't think he's stunting Julian Sand's growth. He is just leaning on them silver bullets. And let me tell you, y'all, I said it earlier. I'll say it again. They just held a team in Washington who averaged over 55 points a game to only 6 points. And those 6 points were 2 field goals, wasn't a touchdown, and a missed extra point or a failed 2-point conversion. Also, let me add this in there. They were averaging 500 and I believe 36 total yards of offense. They only had 234 total yards of offense against Ohio State. So Ohio State's defense knows in an opponent in Washington, which is a Big Ten opener for the Buckeyes, and this literally could be a team that they can meet in the Big Ten championship game. If everything goes right for Ohio State, they'll be in that game the first Saturday in December. And if everything goes right for Washington, they might end up being there. And so while all this is true, one thing I realize is this unit is special. So special that they are in the top 10 in numerous statistical categories in the country. We ain't doing a Big Ten conversation today. That was on Monday with Julian Sand. Today, it's national talk, discussing how big some of the numbers Ohio State's defense has put together stack up with some of the other top units in the country. Ohio State's giving up 229.2 yards per game. That's number 8 in the country. They're only giving up 133.4 passing yards per game. That's good enough for 8th in the country. They're 27th in the country in opponents' rushing yards per game with 97.2. And then they're number 1 in the country in opponents' points per game at 5.5. Let that sink in for you. In 3 of those categories I just mentioned, they are no worse than number 8 in the country. The other, they're no worse than number 27 in the country. And my gut tells me that 97.2 opponents' rushing yards per game will probably be under 90 or 80 over the next few weeks because you have Minnesota, who you should be able to handle. You have, and with Washington is different because you really have to play a little bit of a different defense because not only do you have to worry about Jonah Coleman getting loose, you got to worry about Demond Williams getting loose. And so some of the schematic things worked to kind of contain Demond Williams, who is the engine that makes that offense go. That doesn't take away from how elite Jonah Coleman is as a running back. It only goes into factor into, well, if you slow down Demond Williams, this offense can't do what it's used to doing. Hats off to Matt Patricia, because once again, he is defying all odds, and he is showing everybody that doubted him that y'all shouldn't have doubted the man with the pencil in his head. You shouldn't have. The former engineer is now Ohio State's defensive coordinator, and you can only hope that Patricia is in Columbus for 5 or 10 or 15 years, which I don't think is going to happen. But if that does happen and Ryan Day stays the entire time, you could be looking at a man that consistently develops the best quarterback in the country and consistently has the best defense in the country with the team that he leads. That's just wild to think about. That is insane. But that's where we are. And so when I think about Ohio State's defense, keep this up. Find a way to continue this hot start. Find a way to continue to be a defense that flies around and is chameleon-like. When I sold cars, I ain't told a story like this in a while, but when I sold cars, we had a week-long training and at offsite. Wasn't even on the same side of town of the dealership that I was going to work on. And they went through the road to the sale, and then first day on the job, we had more in-house training. And the first day of the in-house training, the trainer was a sales manager. He talked to us about trying to be a chameleon, trying to adapt to the customer you're trying to sell a car to. He didn't say lie to him. No, we weren't those type of people. But he was literally saying, if you have a customer that has a 750 score or higher, that's a husband and a wife that look like they're a little bit older, you can't treat them like somebody who's 18 years old trying to buy their first car. Or if you see a family of 5 trying to go out there and buy a van, you can't treat them the same. Or maybe you do, but you can treat them the same in your personality and your kindness and how courteous you are. But you may have to adapt your sales style to a different type of client. And I don't think in that mindset it's wrong to say, well, myself, my wife, we got a son. If we buy a new car, we're thinking about the family. When I was single, I was thinking about me. The salesman may approach me with the same courteous behavior and the same kind gestures, but the focus of the sale is going to be a little bit different because one's focused on the family. When I was single, it was just me, myself, and I. So you just treat us a little bit different. Well, Ohio State's defense so far has found a way to be like a chameleon and adapt to whatever the opposition does well, and they shut that thing down very quickly. And while shutting that thing down very quickly, there are 2 things they do every single week that set this defense apart. We will discuss those after the break. This episode is brought to you by Quo. One of the tools that help make a huge difference for business owners is Quo, formerly Open Phone. It's the same great business phone system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is a #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communications. It works right through an app on your phone or computer, so no more carrying 2 phones or relying on a landline. I love how Quo, formerly known as Open Phone, Let your team share one number and collaborate on calls and texts like a shared inbox, so no customer gets left hanging. Whether you're a solo operator juggling everything or part of a larger team, Quo makes it simple to stay responsive and professional. See why over 90,000 businesses trust Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you've got existing numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Thank you all for tapping Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. So I think you're probably like me that the type of defense Ohio State has played has been a lot of fun to watch. And it's not one where you have a 3-down front and you have heavier big boys up there, or if you're running a 3-4 defense where it's your traditional thing, no, or if it's a 4-2-5, it's traditional. Ohio State's using the same personnel that will be starting if it was a 4-2-5 defense or a 4-3 defense, the same type of personnel, just allowing their versatility to shine every single Saturday. But when it comes to how unique this unit is and how deadly they are, their ability to quickly adapt and to fly around all over the field, no matter what type of quarterback they are playing, make them so unique. And I often say that Caleb Downs is a Swiss Army knife. There are players that you see out there, they play football, and you think, hey, man, you're just a jack of all trades. Isn't that what you have a great feel about Ohio State's defense, where that phrase can kind of describe how they play? Because when I mentioned that, DeMond Williams is a different quarterback than anybody that Ohio State has played previously. Where Arch Manning is the second best quarterback, I think Arch Manning has currently been overrated. I don't think he's drastically, or yeah, I'd say drastically overrated, because I don't think, even heading into the season, he should have been in the Heisman conversation based off his play, or the projection based off the play that he had previously. A lot of that was because he is a Manning, and because he's a Manning, people are going to believe that he is going to jump into the scene and pop off. Has it happened? No. When he goes down to Gainesville, and if he has a big game, could that happen? Maybe. But also, you got to realize in context who they're playing. Florida really isn't the team people thought they were going to be, and DJ Lagway in the quarterback people said he was going to be. So, also, side note, since we're on this topic now, make sure you kind of fact check and filter through some of the people that you're listening to, and maybe push back a little bit. I know people on this show will push back on things that I say, and I don't push back on that. I welcome people to push back on things that are said. Now, if it helps get the show to be better and fact check things, I got no problem with it. But if you're going to push back and maybe you're wrong, we may have a little healthy back and forth, and I get that. But sometimes when people are in the national media and they are trying to pump you up a narrative, they'll will help them get more clicks on the article on the show that they're a part of. That may be why they do the things they do. But Ohio State's defense does the things they do because they can, and because they need to. When I watch Ohio State play, and I went back and watched some rewatch part of the game before hitting record on this show, one thing I noticed is that when Ohio State goes out there and they have 3 down linemen, you don't know if the guys on the outside are coming or going. When I say on the outside, a lot of times there will be 3 down linemen, a traditional nose tackle, and then 2 defensive ends. And then you want to have, at times, Arvo Reese and somebody else lined up on the outside. So in this example, you're going to have Kenyatta Jackson Jr., Will Smith Jr., and now let's go Kenyatta. I had a different scenario in my head. Let's put Caden Curry right there at the nose. Put Bo Atkinson on one side. Put Caden McDonald in there as well. And then on the outside of that, Arvo Reese is at one end. He put pick your poison, somebody else on the other. And what you're going to find is they're having a 5-man front. And a year ago, I remember Larry Johnson, I don't know if it was a preseason presser or if it was a mid-season presser, but he talked about doing a double eagle. where you have three big boys, three different defensive tackles down front. And then you're going to have JT and Jack on the field, but they'll be in a 2-point stance on the outside. So it'll be more of, to me, that's more of a traditional heavy run look, but JT and Jack are so versatile that they could be in a 2-point stance, more so JT than Jack, and drop back into coverage and be a problem. Where for this year, if you have three down linemen, and then you have Arval Reese, and let's say on the other side happens to be Bo Atkinson, do you truly know which guy between Atkinson and Reese are going to rush in? Probably not. Now you may assume it's Atkinson over Reese, but sometimes a fourth down look may only have two guys down on the line of scrimmage with their hand in the dirt, and on the outside it's Caden Curry at one end and Arval Reese on the other. And what are you going to find? You have no idea what's going to happen next. So the double eagle that we talked about last year didn't really happen. It's kind of happening this year, but it's a smaller, more quick defensive front that is causing a lot of problems. And I said this earlier in the show or early in the year, but I want to say it again. Matt Patricia is not reinventing the wheel. He is just doing things that he's always done with the players that he has to allow them to be the best players they can be. But also, this stuff was talked about a year ago. Some of it was talked about a year ago. It wasn't being utilized like it is now. I don't believe it would be as quickly executed at this high level like it is right now if it was happening a year ago. So what we're finding right now with Matt Patricia's defense, these guys could do various things to stop you. If you go back to the Texas game, Arch Manning is a good quarterback. I won't say he's trash, but Arch Manning is a good quarterback. But Texas also had two really good running backs. And what happened? Of that trio, none of them got comfortable. None of them. None of them did. And so when you have two good running backs and a good quarterback, you would think we're going to do a certain look to kind of trip you up. And it worked. This past weekend, I think Jonah Coleman is better than Trey Wisner and Blue from Texas. I 100% think he is. But what did Ohio State do? They realized the engine that makes this offense go with DeMond Williams. You still have to have an efficient running game. You still going to have to find a way to set the tone early with the line of scrimmage. But DeMond Williams makes this thing go. Jonah Coleman's better. Denzel Boston, to me, is better than Ryan Wingo. And so when those things are true, you would think this offense would be able to crack the seam and create some holes in the offense. There were some times that between the 20-yard lines, Washington found a little bit of a crease. The seams, they were open, especially when the Buckeyes were playing a softer zone and there were some pretty big holes in the zone. What happened? DeMond Williams found them, got the ball out quickly, and Washington was moving the ball down the field. But Ohio State still found ways in a big-time moment to get more pressure on a quarterback than they had ever this season. I mean, literally, Kayden McDonald. Kayden McDonald was second in sacks. Caden Curry was first, but also Caden Curry tied an Ohio State single-game record with tackles for loss. And he had 5. The ability that Matt Patricia has to deploy certain players to do certain things in different weeks is great. It's fun, but also what you're witnessing is that this unit has the firepower to stop various offenses. Lucky for the Buckeyes, Minnesota is not Texas. Minnesota is not Washington. Minnesota can't even do the things that Ohio did with Parker Navarro. I think they're a tough, gritty, hard-nosed team, a physical team that's going to make Ohio State work for everything. I still think Ohio State's going to win. There's a reason why the spread is pretty massive. I think one time I checked, it was Ohio State minus 23.5 via our friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. So if you're a betting person, maybe now is the time to put your money out there because I haven't done my full breakdown. We haven't had a guest on the show to break the game down, but I got a good feeling the Buckeyes will win big this week, and in large part because the Silver Bullets have been dangerous, and they have ways to slow down various offense. When I say slow down, let's change that word. They got ways to shut them bad boys down. Speaking of shutting down various teams, there are things that Ohio State can do to strengthen and to build up certain parts of their own team. We will discuss some of those things next. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Guys, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. So Ohio State's team is in a very good spot right now, and it goes without saying, not just being the number one team in the country. When we nitpick and we try to pick apart certain things the team does that need to be improved, you can't really look all over the field. Just to name a few things that might need to be changed offensively, open up the playbook a little bit more, utilize the pass to open up the run. If you want to use the run to open up the pass, make sure you put your best back on the field. Also, another thing, offensively, at right guard, is Tagovailoa the answer? I still don't know. He's done okay. He's done better. He still hasn't. There's still been an occasional weak link there at right guard, but is that the answer? That's a question to be answered, and that will only be answered via game film and if Tyler Bowen decides to make it a change. Another thing, defensively, is it time to try to move Matthews Jr. to nickel and then allow Devin Sanchez to play outside corner? I don't know. I think there's a scenario where Lorenzo Styles is not a full-time starter because where he made a bad play with his technique against Ohio, and I was like, oh, okay. It was literally just a technique thing. Like he tried to jump through the hands instead of run through the hands of the receiver, and then he was playing catch-up for about 30, 40 yards on his way to being behind a guy when he went to the end zone. But then when I watched this Washington game, there were times where I'm thinking, you shouldn't turn around like that. There are things that I think he is doing that might not be the best for the team. The fact that Devin Sanchez, and I think he played 6 snaps against Washington on the road, and Ryan Day talked about this is a hostile environment. It's the first Big Ten game of the year. It's an environment that's not normal. It's 3 times on the way. We had to change our own travel accommodations. Maybe some guys that are younger aren't going to play. And I believe the only true freshman that played on offense or defense, Bo Jackson on offense, Devin Sanchez on defense. Didn't even rotate with Ethan Onyanwa at right guard. Tega played the entire time. At linebacker, you had Peyton Pierce, which has already been said. He is a starting linebacker, even though the Buckeyes only start 2. If they started 3, he would already be there. So I think it's clear that Devin Sanchez is the next man up. Is the right spot for him nickel corner or outside corner? I would not be upset if you put Matthews Jr. at inside corner and Devin Sanchez at outside corner. I think that actually strengthens your entire defense. But for the entire team, this team isn't perfect. Aside from those things that I mentioned, I think can happen in a week and you'll be just fine. The only there's 2 universal special teams that kind of caught my attention against Washington. One is the kickoff team, or you kick off quite a bit when you score more than the other team. Score as much as Ohio State has done this year. And the unit was kind of stay in your lane. It's just in a LeVar Ball moment. I just had a flashback to when he told Christine Leahy to stay in her lane. And I was watching that live on FS1, and I didn't even realize in the moment what was happening. Like I was like, oh, he literally just said this. And then the next thing I know, this is before stuff went viral like it does on Instagram. I went on Twitter and I was like, oh, they ripping LeVar Ball for telling her to stay in her lane. But stay in your lanes on the kickoff team, but then also punt return. 2 of these things can be fixed. The kickoff team, the punt return team, they can be fixed by pounding the table for these guys to master the fundamentals of playing in this unit. And this isn't just a Brandon Ennis thing, even though he did have the fumble and Ohio State lost the possession there. as Ryan Day detailed after the game. It's very clear that sometimes the fundamentals of even just carrying the ball kind of go out of your mind when you're right there. You see a crease, you see a hole. And everything collapses on you very, very quickly. The hole that was yay wide is now yay wide. All of a sudden, it gets like this. And next thing you know, you can't get through it. And a lot of this goes back to the fundamentals. Sometimes when you're on a kickoff team, it is not sometimes, it's very easy in general to not stay in your lane and to not master your own fundamentals and to stick with them when the game is played, because you got lots of people watching. You have a lot of people. You got a lot of lights on you. There are a lot of influences that will cause you or can cause you to not be somebody that will stay in your lane on the kickoff team. But in that return, that Muhammad returned, and you could tell even before Gary Danielson said that he hit that gear. Homie hit a gear, and it was like, okay, you ran track. It's very clear. homie ran track. But who was right there to tackle him and give up his body to prevent a touchdown? Jaden Fielding. But what happened? It was good blocking by Washington, but when people don't stay in their lanes, bad things can happen. On punt return, do I put all of that on Brendan Ennis to fumble? Absolutely. Now, he had a crease. He saw it. The punt return unit did their job and found a way to allow him to have an open lane, but he got hit by one guy. He got hit by another guy. And then the fundamental of two hands on the ball got lost. It's all about the fundamentals. And when I'm saying the fundamentals, it's also realizing that Ohio State is not your normal team. If you say fundamentals, Ohio State's players are already more talented than everybody else. So it's not saying fundamentals with a team that's less talented. It's saying fundamentals because you are more talented. And if you master the fundamentals and they translate to the game, you're probably going to win every game you play. Probably. Now, you may run into a team that's just hitting on all cylinders at a time when they aren't supposed to against you and they have the upper hand. Yeah, that's possible, but mastering the fundamentals is key. Just like for the Silver Bullets, flying around, being adaptable, being kind of a chameleon type player, being able to go and handle a very elusive Kyler Murray-esque quarterback in Devon Williams, or a very elite running back in Jonah Coleman, who is a bit beefy dude. But my goodness, that beefy dude can move. He is quick. He has great vision. And if you, like I said earlier, I said it last week, and I think somebody laughed because I had a guest, but I said, look, you got to wrap him up. Because homie is not a true bowling ball, like a Mayan Williams height type bowling ball, but he's just a little bit taller, more of a bigger, bodier bowling ball. And I kind of laughed and I said, no, wrap him up. And I said it realizing that's football 101. It's very, very elementary. The ability to sit there and wrap up somebody with the ball, or if you're a ball carrier, to make sure you secure that thing, especially when you go into traffic, put two hands on it, bend down a little bit, protect it at all costs. Those things are elementary stuff for playing football. And so moving forward against Minnesota, on the road to Illinois, which is a big noon game that was announced on Monday, that Ohio State's trip to Champaign will be a big nooner, a big noon banger. I'm not really even mad about this one, honestly. I'm going to close up with this. I am not mad that Ohio State's first game of the year was on big noon, and then the game about a week and a half from now is also going to be on at big noon. I'm not mad about that at all. One, you get one at Ohio State. You get one in Champaign. It allows Fox to get their Ohio State fix while going to a place that they don't normally go. I am not mad about that at all, because I believe the following week against Wisconsin, it's probably going to be a CBS or NBC game, or maybe a Big Ten Network, which, granted, you got to deal with it. I'm not the biggest fan of Big Ten Network. Not the biggest fan of Fox, which might go hand in hand, as Fox has a massive ownership part into owning the Big Ten Network, but I'm just not a big fan of it. I'm not. The broadcast, I think Jake Butt does great work for the Big Ten Network. I believe Kevin Kugler and Yogi Roth and some of the other commentators and play-by-play men that Big Ten Network has, they do great work. I prefer CBS. I prefer ESPN and ABC. I prefer NBC. I know some people were not happy with Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson. Well, okay, Nessler's a legend. Gary Danielson does a great job. Could he be better? I mean, at his age, I don't know. But are there better? Yes. I think next year when you get Charles Davis to come back to college football to call those games, I believe you will be just fine. You will be just fine and realize, what if they get somebody else when Brad Nessler goes away? I don't think we'll be able to get Lil Eagle. He's right there at NBC doing the college basketball, doing the college football, and now the NBA. I think Lil Eagle, Noah Eagle, that is fine. I don't think Iron Eagle's going to do double duty to do CBS on a college football Saturday and then NFL on a Sunday. He could. I mean, Kevin Harlan does the NFL game on a Sunday and then does Monday Night Football for Westwood One. I mean, I wouldn't complain if Iron Eagle and Charles Davis teamed up to call college football games in the Big Ten slate. I wouldn't complain at all because that means that you're going to get them to do the Big Ten championship game at some point in time. I don't know where that came from. I literally said, let me get this off my chest, talking about why I was not upset about the game against Illinois being a big noon banger, and here we are. Thank you all for tapping in Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out Locked On College Football because my guy, Spencer McLaughlin, is a guy to keep you up to date and help you recap and stay in the know with everything going on with a sport we love, which is college football. You can follow Locked On College Football and Locked On Buckeyes right there on the YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes on a Tuesday. We'll see you next time.